Okay, welcome to the December 5th, 2023 session of Tangerine SDR and Hamside Technical Session. My name is Dave, KV0S, and this week I've been trying to fix things. Some things broke, some new things, but mostly getting things that once worked back working. So that's a lot of what I've been doing. I did get my recordings in uh, for the DCC next weekend on December 9th. So please think about attending that. Okay, next on the list, I have Michael, AAAK. Go ahead, Michael.
Oh, thank you. Greetings to everyone listening. Back to you, Dave.
Okay, and next, just a second there. Next on the list, I have Michael, another Michael, AC0G. Go ahead, Michael, and if you want to show your demo again, that'd be great.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hey, Dave and everybody in the group. Happy Monday. I will share the screen. Let me try this. See if I can get this working again. And this time I'm going to share something slightly different.
Okay.
What you're seeing here is a Leo Bodnar disciplined Hermes that is listening on 10, 5, 2.5, and 15. And this is the sort of a test GNU radio block diagram I'm running that is showing a narrow frequency range from right to left around to the center frequency on each of those. And I hope is what I'm reading this from is a file that has previously been stored using digital RF. So this is IQ data stored directly out of GNU radio, and I could probably, get the companion running just to show the block diagram. There it is. This is the block diagram. This is the Hermes block that was written by Tom McDermott, and I'm feeding it into a low pass filter, which decimates it and reads, it's recording at a sample rate of 96. It maintains that, but then decimates it by 12 to get it down to 8K. And then simply dumps the IQ that's coming out straight into digital RF. And then what I do is read it out of the same source, the directory where it's stored in for all 4 of those frequencies, put it in a low pass filter and dump it to a QT sync, a GUI sync, which produces the thing we were looking at before. And if I stop sharing that, so that's a newer version of a seedless or grapeless grape that uses digital RF. I haven't yet managed to get that piped to Bill Engelke's server. But then the second, or the thing that I showed earlier, I can find it, there it is, which is a old style grape one. This is using John Gibbons' version of a RPA image, sorry, Raspberry Pi image. This is his modified version of FL Digi that is listening 1 kilohertz down from 5 megahertz. And so that's what I have Cubic SDR tuned to with upper sideband, and I've got a little bit offset for the center frequency, so I'm not screwing things up there. And a typical plot then that I get out of this, which is regularly uploaded to the repository, looks like this. So this was from May 2022 and shows the 24 hours from 0 up to 24 with basically a pretty good baseline during the nighttime hours. Daytime is all over the map, of course, and that's basically it. So this is my attempts to make a grapeless grape, so to speak. Oh, you see the signal going by there? That's Christina's signal that's superimposed on WWV at 8 before the hour and 8 after the hour. I haven't figured out how to store that yet, but anyway, that's an example of what I've been setting up here without actually having a grape. I tried to get this all set up for the last eclipse, but naturally I left town, thought I had it all running automatically, and something went snafu. So that's basically what I've been working on and currently have set up. I'm eager to get. Rob just sent me an email a few minutes ago, looks like, because I'd sent him a query about getting Whisper Demon set up. I had 2 RX 888s that went bad. I sent them to Bob Strickland, who looked them over. We were talking about that last week. He sent them back to me, and I since received a couple more. I've unpackaged and connected one to a Leo Bodnar. It looks like it's working well, and I thought I'd use Rob's Whisper Demon software and get that set up as a disciplined receiving site with Whisper Demon. Sorry for being so long-winded. That's what I've been working on. Back to net.
Well, very interesting stuff. We'll be interested in following up on the details as we go along. Next on the list is Dave, KD0 EAG. Go ahead, Dave.
Hello, I hope I'm not making weird sounds. I have been trying to get a presentation finished, and I don't remember what all else, a whole lot of things though. Working on some code for John Gibbons and a whole bunch of things all at once. Spent most of the afternoon, wasted most of the afternoon, just trying to get pictures out of my cell phone into my computer. Found more ways that it won't do it anymore. No Bluetooth, no USB, no all these ways. But finally, I slowly emailed a few of them to myself. It would only take a maximum of 6 per email, and finally got them over. But wasted a lot of time on that. But anyway, that's life as usual around here. That's all for me right now.
Okay. Next on the list is David McGaw. If he's available, I saw him walking around outside, it looked like. David, are you there?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm walking back from a event where we were listening to our incoming president here at Dartmouth. I have to say I'm kind of excited to have the first woman we've had. And but yeah, I thought I'd just check in, see what people were up to. I know Nathaniel won't be on for the next couple of weeks, but wasn't sure we were meeting, but I figured, yeah, we're into this. We'll be on. So
Yep.
Back to Nat.
Yes, for those that don't know, Nathaniel said this last week that he was going to Boulder today, and then he's going to go to San Francisco next week. to 2 meetings, and so he'll miss this week and next week on the TeamSpeak or the not TeamSpeak, Zoom session. So, Michael, that's a flashback. Anyway, next on the list we have Franco K4VZ. Go ahead, Franco.
Good evening, Dave. Good evening, everyone. Last week, after we had our meeting, I also met with Tom McDermott and emailed Bill Engelkes. So I'm writing basically a program in C that will read directly from from KA9Q radio and write RTP streams in digital RF format. So this way, basically with one code, we can run everywhere, and I'm already have the part where I can read from the stream. So I just have to put the stuff in this RF format and will be available for everybody to, almost do a grape directly from K9Q radio, sort of, in similar format, okay? And in the same sense, I'm also looking into adding to the program called RX888 stream, also the option to write to digital RF, but that will mean that you can get basically the whole spectrum from 0 to the sampling frequency down to, a straight. We'll see how it works. That one I kind of be interesting to see.
Yes.
Back to Nat.
Very good. Next on the list is Jay Schwartz, KB8, or sorry, WB8 SBI. Go ahead.
Not KB yet. Anyway, so nothing really new here, just keeping in mind what I'm going to be doing for the QSO party and to make sure my hotel reservations are all set for down in Ohio. And what I'm going to need to pack up and take with me and deploy it and get power and et cetera, the usual things when you go in the field. So other than that, nothing new here. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.
Okay.
Back to net, and I'll just be reading the mail on everybody here.
Okay. Next on the list. Oh, Jim, K4BSE. Go ahead, Jim.
Good evening, all. Well, not a whole lot going on here. We did a Skywarn Recognition Day last Friday evening and Saturday for the National Weather Bureau. We're the kind of the home club for the National Weather Service station that serves almost all of North and Central Georgia. It's about 5 miles as the crow flies from me. So we were over there using their station and a lot of fun doing that, but otherwise not a whole lot going on here. I'm finally getting back to something I should have done some time ago, trying to put some sort of a shed over my magnetometer, the PVC that's sticking up above the ground. It's didn't quite get it down to 3 feet. And so I thought I would put a little insulated housing over it. And so I've got the dimensions for that. I've got the lumber. I just need to get it cut out now. Otherwise, not a whole lot going on. Back to net, K4BSE.
Okay. Next on the list is Jonathan Rizzo, KC3EEY. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Hi, everybody. I've been a little occupied with some non-VLF related projects, but there was something really interesting that I wanted to mention. I also wrote an email about this. So this is a plot of NAA, November 28th. You can see the top stack, the top plot carrier phase. You can see how it rolls from around 100 degrees all the way down to 500, and that was due to the fact that NAA has a negative 24 microhertz offset in its carrier frequency. So when it does the phase measurement, it rolls. And so I never got a chance to actually put in the offset. So what I did was I finally put the offset in, and I believe it's this one right here. So this is after, whoops. So this is after the, yep, this one is after I put the offset in, and you can see that the phase doesn't roll. This is actually, this looks like the typical phase plot that you would see. It's stable during the day and night, and during the dawn and dusk transitions, you see the instability. So this is, well, you also see that in the rolling phase plot too, but this is actually pretty good. So with VLFRX tools, you have the ability to use the narrowband spectrogram application to actually look at the peaks and the carrier peaks and actually measure their offset. And it's the GPS timing that actually allows this phase measurement to happen. So I was actually happy that I found this. And so NML also has a phase offset, and a bunch of others. So what I plan on doing is actually correcting everything, putting in those frequency offsets, and that will give me better looking carrier phase data. And I have also wrote an email thread about it with some further details if you're interested. And also I do want to send out two plugs. So for the Eclipse, if you are interested in capturing data from Navy VLF transmitters for the Eclipse, let me know, and I could tell you what you need to get that done. But HamSci is very interested in that data because it provides a much better picture of the D layer. Also, I'm interested in utilizing VLFRX tools as a replacement to John's FL Digi program. What I would like to do is I would actually like to use VLFRX tools with the grape application. So if someone has a spare Bodnar and a grape and a Pi and willing to give me SSH access, and also if they have the dual output Bodnar, from what I understand, you could set the frequency of one of the second output or something, and then the first output defaults to 1 PPS. So if you have a 1 PPS feeding into the sound card or one channel, and the grape mixer board output on the other channel, and a free Raspberry Pi that I could log into, install VLFRX tools, and run them, I would really like to do that to see how well that it would work. It's a good alternative to what's going to the existing FL Digi, and I just wanted to see how well it would work because it was never utilized, and there was some initial friction in adopting it because obviously it's definitely not a plug and play type of program. There's a fairly big learning curve, but I feel it can really help with the grape application. Not only could it generate plots like this, but it could also generate spectrogram plots as well. And then a application could be written to convert VLFRX tools data into digital RF. that would be a useful application anyway. Yeah, so if anybody has that, has a spare Bodnar, a grape mixer, and a grape setup ready to go, or even a spare audio output from the grape board and a 1 PPS, if you have another grape and willing to let me experiment, I could be ever so grateful. What I would like to do is develop some scripts to get a VLFRX Tools grape application running. So if anyone is interested, please let me know. That's all I have. Back to the net.
Okay. And let's see, I'm trying to make sure. So the next would be Rob Robinette. And thank you, Rob, for helping me today. I think
no.
our little problem will get fixed tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's all fine as far as I can't remember now. I've been looking at. I just looked at while others were talking, and I've been deploying, installing my what I think will be the final release of Whisper Daemon 3.1.
Okay.
And I've been doing now. It's running now at about 15 sites around the world. And what this does, the relevance to this group, is that that it includes the Doppler shift measurements on Whisper 2 spots. This is an enhanced version of Whisper D that was created by Ryan Tolboom from New Jersey Institute of Technology. And I've added that use of that to Whisper Daemon. And it's running at your site, Dave, and 15 other sites. This means that we can now look at all 2,000 beacon stations as potential sources for Doppler shift information for paths around the world. Gwen has, G3ZIL has taken a brief initial look at some paths in some areas in Europe and found that perhaps 10% of the beacons, Whisper 2 beacons, appear to be operating with stable enough oscillators that they could provide useful Doppler shift information. Obviously, if the transmitter's oscillator is drifting all over the place, it's useless. We don't know what the ionosphere contributed. But 10% of the transmitters he saw in Europe yesterday appeared to be pretty stable, and we don't. He's trying to contact some of these people to find out what, in fact, systems they are using. But this is the first day of the investigations. But so I believe that Gwen has another study that he is a report that he's prepared that shows that these Doppler shift data that we're measuring with Whisper packets closely match those that you guys are measuring with the grape receivers from WWV. He had a study comparing during the eclipse Doppler shift data from one of our sites along the path with a WWV measurements from a grape 2 down to Arizona, and they correlate amazingly well. It's so it looks like this addition of Whisper 2's spreading / Doppler shift could greatly expand the areas of the world that we're measuring Doppler shift and ionospheric motion. I mean, this is a major big data problem, though. I mean, we're going to generate vastly more data than is being generated by the GRAPE project right now. So, and for many different parts of the world and transmission paths and so on. So this is a big data problem, and Gwen has started the process, and I think demonstrated that it's we have the opportunity to gather this data and information. But but it's now moving from will it work to how do we actually make it useful, you know.
Yep.
Anyway, that's my major focus. I need to turn my attention to preparing for this poster I'm going to prepare next week. We are renaming the, I think that presentation is going to be primarily about what we've been describing as the beacon blaster. In discussions, my wife, who has done branding things, so this is a bad name to present for a product at the AGU where she has some experience. So we came up with the idea of calling it the Whisper Sonde, SONDE, like an ionosonde, and that is actually a very accurate description of what this does. And in fact, in some ways, it's a more useful device than an ionosonde. I mean, it gives you different sets of information about ionospheric thing because it's transmitting on 8 bands simultaneously, and there's tremendous value. Gwen has demonstrated the tremendous value of the simultaneous transmissions, continuous simultaneous transmissions on all the bands. He has produced insights in his reports that we would just motion within the ionospheric layers appears to be observable and measurable. So there's a lot of good opportunities for research work, I think, in the data set, and adding and moving from FST4W, which is, not widely transmitted or received, to the much more widely used Whisper transmission mode will make a big difference, I think. It's in the size and usefulness of the data. Anyway, back to Net. That's
very good.
I did one more thing. I did send
sure.
Michael a note, and I'm going to work with him maybe tomorrow or something. Whatever is the easiest way to get him online. Michael's work there with the new radio charts and so on. He's going to have a tremendous amount of IQ data, AQ recordings to work with, and I'm really looking forward to inundating with him with data from his receivers. So back to Net.
Very good. Next we have Tom in 5 EG. Tom, are you there?
Yeah, still here. Good evening, Dave, everyone in the group. I started off a busy week, and Franco and I had a couple of conversations and sent a copy of it to Michael. I think ultimately we need to have a conversation with Bill Engelke, perhaps on this call. I know Bill's got a schedule conflict right now that prevents him from joining us, but we may need to look at how we should upload digital RF data to Bill's server, and I think right now it's basically just a bash script, but I suspect there's header data and user numbers, registration data, that kind of stuff. And we probably ought to have some kind of agreement spelled out so we can figure out how to put that data together, capture some test data that Franco's been working on, I've been working on, Michael's been working on, so we can validate it. And then Michael made the good point, we need to come up with some reference implementations and give folks a cookbook for how to hook things up, how to set things up, how to upload data to the site, what's the approved way of doing all of that. So Bill would be invaluable in that discussion, and we'll need to wait probably for just a little while until he gets freed up and can join us in a discussion. Yep. And I'm going to be gone next week. I've got a schedule conflict for next Monday's conference call. So back to the group.
Okay. So I think I've called on everybody. So we're open for general discussion. Did you see Tom Michael's graphs that he showed earlier in the meeting?
I was just a little late getting started. So I saw the GNU radio flow graph using Hermes and DRF, but I missed the part in front of that. It was about 5 minutes late getting in.
I just want to make sure you were fully aware of what Michael's doing, and the whole thread of Michael's work goes back to his PSR article and making a grapelet, something that doesn't have a grape that does all the function of a grape.
Okay. Yeah, I've read Michael's article a couple of times, and I'm trying to noodle through how to apply that to KA9Q radio.
So, Michael, do you want to show any other of what you did? Mike?
Well, I agree completely that we need to talk with Bill, but I know Bill's got some fundamental constraints on what he's working with. And I had some previous conversations with him, and he is he's trying to be very responsible with what he has and the resource he has. But I don't think we should be thinking about this necessarily constrained by those things that he's trying to be responsible for.
Okay.
I think we need to be a little bit more kind of open-minded and generic about it, so that whatever particular piece of hardware we're using, and then more importantly, I suppose, whatever particular scientific question we're trying to ask or answer, we have an easy way to set up and upload and store the data that we need to answer those questions.
Mhm.
That's the part I think that really requires some head scratching and some collaboration to make sure we've got a way that you use the right word, or a good word for it, cookbook, Tom, to make sure that whatever we're working with, everybody's got a good sense of what we're trying to store and why and how it's useful and how we might tweak or adjust or otherwise adapt any of a variety of hardware underlayments to get the job done. If we've got GPSDO and we've got a decent radio and we have an internet link, and it would be great to be able to contribute data in whatever way we can figure it out, whether it's in, tangerine, grape, clementine, or whatever fruit you want. Get it contributing to the science.
Well, and
Yeah,
also
I
do
could
it with
see
the
several different recipes in the cookbook. One for the data that Bill needs, but others for things like what Rob is working on and others. So I suspect there may be, as you said, for different experiments, different recipes.
I also
For
want to
sure. And there was just when I was sharing the screen, it was serendipitous, but the add-on to the WWV signal that Christina arranged years ago just happened to be tracing by. And that's another example of extant signals that are out there that we could conceivably be storing. And so momentary data like that, like that 1 minute, or not 1 minute, it's like a 20-second window that she sends that signal. If we were storing that and uploading it separately, if we had the specs for how to do that, that could then be useful. That would be awesome.
Okay.
Anyway, I have one question for Rob. Rob, in your email, you sent me a link to the GitHub site, but it has 3.0.9. I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, just download that, and if you either you could do, if it's easier for you to just set up a port forwarder, we can do that, or I can give you a way to set up a remote access channel, and then I can log on to your machine. Then I can do the upgrade rather than have you walk through the whole process. And I don't know
We'll
what
do that offline then.
Yeah, let's
I'm
do it
available most of the day tomorrow,
That would be good.
all morning tomorrow.
Early tomorrow would be the best time for me.
Great.
I'm in California, so I'm if I'm usually up at my desk by 7 a.m. here, so
I'll send you my phone number via email.
Okay.
And we can. Okay.
Rob,
Okay.
Rob, you mentioned Whisper Demon. Was it 3.12 that you're working on?
3.1.3, 3.1.3, I think is a release candidate, very solid. I mean, the problem is now installation. It's really I'm going through installation problems. Phil and I are working on the first Pi 5 installation. Doesn't look like the Pi 5 is up to, and he initially, at least he said it wasn't. He couldn't get it wasn't fast enough, the connection to the. So I have. I mean, it's running the FFT Wisdom program has been running for 5 hours on the Pi 5. That's that's pretty discouraging.
Yeah.
So I'm the Pi 5 may not be candidate. But I think I told you last week that the Orange Pi, I miraculously now works. You can. For me, it was all power supply problems. I wasn't giving it the Pi 5. I mean, the Orange Pi enough amps. And once I did that, the Orange Pi is a remarkably fast machine for it's not a i9, but it's pretty good for our purposes. And I think that. For those of you, I guess like you, Michael, that have multiple RX 888s and want to, and hopefully connect them to different antennas, so you have, optimize your reception. I think the Pi, it looks like the Orange Pi might be a good platform because you can only connect. Phil's software supports one RX 888 per physical box. He believes, I think rightly, that it's that he's just going to get into all kinds of problems, USB 3 transfer problems, if he tries to support multiple devices, multiple 888s.
Rob,
so,
is this on your GitHub site?
Yeah. Yes. Well, what you do is I'm trying to.
Maybe. Okay, I'll wait.
It is a
Okay.
job to get it set up, but
Okay.
you do need to work with Rob right now.
Yeah,
Okay,
right
so-
now I'm working through trying to completely automate it, but right now I don't know how to. I have never checked in code into the main trunk, so I have so I have to learn how to do that in GitHub, and
Okay.
so that's so until I do that, I'm working on a branch. So you got to do a check out the branch, and it just takes a few minutes. So I want to get Michael go. I want to get. I can support people like Michael or you, Tom, if you want. If you have one, I can set you up, and if it's a reasonable environment. If it's a Ubuntu 22.04 on an x86 reasonable x86 platform, it's actually pretty easy to set up. I can get it
Mine
running.
went pretty smooth. And,
Yeah, well, you've got a firecracker there, a rocket ship of a.
Yes.
It's
I wanted to make sure. I think Tom mentioned this. As we get these variations of data collectors, we really need to be sure that we keep metadata describing how they're set up and what's different about them. And so even with the Whisper daemon versions, we need to somehow have a way that we can spit out a document that says these are the settings on this machine.
If somebody wants to work with me, I have a mechanism in place in Whisper Daemon. When it uploads to the Whisper Daemon server,
right?
In addition to the spots and the noise level, background noise level, it also uploads the status of the receiver status and the configuration. But right now, I don't have a database to store that in, and it's really a database problem. Is how do we take this data? We need someone to decide a set of fields or columns that would be common across all of the potential sources of data. I mean, we have been for a long time recording, say, the number of overload events that the receiver reports. That count is included with each spot. Okay, so each spot in the Whisper daemon database has an indicator of the whether there's an overload problem that occurred during that, or how many overload events occurred during that 2-minute Whisper recording. So there's all these other settings, for example, the GPS. Is it using is this receiver fed by a GPS discipline oscillator? If it's the Kiwi, okay, is it using an external oscillator or is it using the internal one? If it's using the internal one, how many satellites it's tracking? Dave, I think you had that problem. Okay, you had, and no blame. This is, I had, I've been working with these things for 7 years, and these Kiwis for 7 years. So, I know these corners of the Kiwi configuration. But in Dave's case, he had left it in, I'm sure, the default setting, which was don't look for the Galileo satellites. Well, those are all the strongest satellites out there. They're 10 dB stronger. So you weren't looking for those. And then and there was you had inherited a legacy setting of the Kiwi, where the Kiwi only looked for new satellites when there was nobody attached or no listeners. Well, there's a listener on your Kiwi all the time, 24/7. It's called the Whisper Daemon. It's yeah. So give it, and at one time that checkbox was needed because of the algorithm, the satellite search algorithm. But long ago, years ago, they added the Kalman filter, which is so much more efficient for searching that the WIMP CPU of the Kiwi can do the satellite search and do all of its decoding and management stuff at the same time. So these are all corners that need to be part of the metadata that's associated with spots. But the mechanism, the transfer mechanism in place, I just haven't, I haven't had, my focus has been getting all of the spreading data and getting this Whisper 2 spreading data, so we could, right, instead of 4 FSD 4W transmitters, we now have perhaps 200 beacon sites, Whisper 2 beacon sites, that may be the source of useful Doppler shift data. So
I'm interested in that, though. One of the things that Dave Witten and Dave Larson and I have been talking about when we meet offline is the paradigm that this whole use of radios like an RX-888 or KA9Q as a software interface provides almost mandates separation of transmission sites from receive sites. And so what we've I'm very interested in the beacon blaster or the what did you call it?
Whisper Sound.
Whisper Sound's a good name.
I love it.
Good, thank you. I'll tell Paul that he's got the group's approval.
Well, the idea is too, though, what Dave and I can do is kind of divvy up some space around where we live, but we all live within about 15 miles of each other. So what I found running a ZACTech on my local site with Whisper receive is that, whenever the ZACTech, even at 0.2 watts, transmits a signal, it wipes out whatever Whisper reception is working on that band. And so the idea of having a good GPSDO reception site and a good GPSDO transmit site, they can't be at the same spot. No, especially if you're using all the capacities of KA9Q and an RX-888 or the Whisper Sound transmitter. They have to be separated. And so what we want to figure out is some basic parameters for how to do that too.
Well,
I would like to
yeah.
get one of those radio sonde devices and transmit simultaneously.
Well,
locally.
Okay. I have one of these is allocated for you, Michael, and will be shipped in soon. I wanted to establish the accuracy of this whole transmit receive system. That being the whisper sound transmitter GPS discipline going to 888 GPS discipline 888, and so that's what I have set up here in the background. And now that I have the code implemented, I can test it. What I only learned this afternoon or this morning was that the fundamental resolution of these of this system is a little over 8 millihertz. It has to do with the number of samples and the length of time. And Ryan, I think, in an email to me, Ryan Tolboom gave the formula for the spreading resolution, the size of the FFT bins that are being used by Whisper D is they're 8 and a fraction millihertz apart. And similarly for 4W, they're almost the same, slightly different. So I was getting, when I set this up last week, I was seeing the minimum spreading distance of 8 millihertz or 9 millihertz, and I couldn't. We've been seeing with 4W, we've been seeing 4 millihertz spreading. Well, it turns out that there's a problem with the JT9 decoder. There's a bug in JT9, and it misreports spreading numbers. So the numbers we've been using from the released version of JT9, the spreading numbers that it generates, which have been as low as 4 millihertz, are bogus. They're not badly bogus, but they're bogus. And Brian has also created a modified, enhanced version, or a corrected version in this case, of JT9 decoder, which I hope to incorporate into Whisper Daemon at some point. But now that I understand that why I'm not getting 4 millihertz spreading here, I'm feeling a lot better about my test setup, and ergo, I'm ready to ship these things off to you in the near future. And in the next week or two. So I would like to, one of the other things, in order to, these now run in Whisper mode, they can run still in 4W, but I think we want to run them in Whisper 2 transmission mode instead of 4W to maximize the number of receive sites. So, that's, you will pick up your beacon signals. And it was only a few days ago that Paul fixed his code. He had various problems with his code, and we've got a very stable release of his firmware. Version 2.3 of his .0 of his firmware is running very stably at his place in here. So previously we were getting file system corruption problems, and the systems would have to be reformatted and all this stuff. It was a mess. But since he's fixed that, so I didn't want to ship these Whisper sounds off until we had good firmware in them, and I'd resolved whether whether I have a good test setup. And so now that I think we're at that stage, I'll be able to ship it to you, and you can get going. I'm not sure that you need to separate the receive sites to address your other question, or one of your other questions is, we have had with the dynamic range of especially of the 888, if you're careful about your signal levels and the signal flow path, you can have a very strong local signal, not interfere with you. And one of the issues that I'm still learning about, is detecting overload events in the 888 and in Phil software. And it turns out that there's two areas where there can be overloads. One is the is of course the A to D. It's almost impossible to overload the A to D converter on the 888. It turns out. I mean, it takes, you know, it takes 10 plus 10 dBm to overload this thing on the front end. And it's quite amazing. In fact, the problem is that it's too insensitive, and almost every site that I've looked at now needs at least 10 dB more LNA gain ahead of the 888 in order for a quiet receive site to not be limited by the internal noise generated by the 888, or for that matter, the Kiwi. The Kiwi is actually 5 dB better than the 888 in terms of lower internal noise. But even it is the Kiwi is still too noisy at many quiet receive sites. And of course, I'm used to quiet receive sites. You know, I've got receivers at KFS and KPH and out in Maui, and all these are, you know, super quiet sites. It's where we get down to the ITU rural noise levels, you know, minus 160 and, you know, per hertz up at 10 meters. We'll see that. So in that environment, a receiver that has a, you know, minus 150 per hertz noise level, internal noise level, is lost 10 dB of dynamic range just for that reason. So there are other things, you know, Phil actually doesn't measure the overloads on the WAV files that are going out. So I've had to add, one of the reasons it's taken me so long is I've added monitoring. I run SOX, the SOX program, to examine the WAV files and log if there's overload events. And some sites, surprisingly here, I had, you know, 3, you know, plus 30 dB signals, and I was getting all kinds of overloads. Well, it turned out that it's, you know, when your signals are synchronous, of course, the waveforms add together. So you get instantaneous summing. You don't get a Gaussian distribution of signal levels the way you do off your antenna. So it depends on you know what your signal level environments is, and you need statistics and observability into all of this to be able to set up a really effective receive site. And I did see, encouragingly, a message from John Melton, who is the, I guess, author of the Lin HP.
Yes.
And
Lin
he,
SDR. And
yeah.
he also wrote the DSP software, worked with Warren on that.
Well, he is well into integrating with the K9Q.
Very
So
good.
it's
I did get an email from him as well. I mentioned that to him, and he said, "Yep, I'm working on it."
good. Well, I want to make sure he understands that the greatest single thing he can do for us, is to us to be able to remotely be able to look at a 0 to 30 megahertz spectrum the way we can with a Kiwi.
Right.
That's the one thing I want to get out of him. Okay, so I'm running out of time here. So I mean, I've kind of dominated, but Michael, let's plan to talk tomorrow. Send me an email and we can get you set up. I'm very eager to work with you on this. And I think the fellow who in Austin who was interested in a whisper sound, he isn't here.
That was Bob.
Yeah,
Bob is not here tonight.
okay, but
Bob Strickland.
Yeah, Bob Strickland. So he's the other person I'm going to send. I want to send one to.
Okay.
And I want to make sure that there's you know, GPS DO 888s, you know, along the path. Bob Strickland seemed to indicate he thought he had a receive and transmit antenna far enough apart that he might be able to do both. I think that's what I understood him to say. So there will be an opportunity to see how much the effects are between the two, how close you can get.
I'm going to have to go, but I'm going to leave my session running, so it'll record whatever goes on after.
Okay. Well, I think I'm going to go with you, Dave. I think you're all set up, Dave, right? Your
Yes.
receive site is, I think you're out. Let me know if you have any problems. I just can't monitor every site, all the time. So
I understand.
Yeah.
I usually let you know if I have a problem.
okay, don't hesitate. I want to
Okay.
hear about problems. I need to.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Excuse me, everyone. Michael, I'll talk to you tomorrow. And Tom, I'll be happy to help you set up your 888s if you want to. I'm probably not tomorrow, but if you wanted to send me an email.
Okay,
Good.
I'll do that. There's no rush. There's no rush at all.
Okay. Well, that's you need a reasonably powerful an i5 6500 it works very well.
Okay.
Uh,
I've got something connected to it that's plenty powerful.
Okay. Well, that's and your 888 machine, it's almost better if it's a separate machine than the Whisper Demon machine. It's
Okay.
yeah, but you can put them together on the same most cases. Okay, guys. Take care. I'll
73.
talk to you next week, I'm sure.
Yep.
All
Bye.
right.
Well, don't everybody talk at the same time.
Well, I'll only just reiterate my interest in establishing this kind of cookbook that Tom mentioned for a data format that we can tweak as need be, but has some basic fundamentals characteristics that we can kind of prepare for. And the other is that at the other end of things, from the data storage point is the data collection point. There's a whole raft of HPSDR compatible radios that are in existence out there, many of which can accept GPSDO discipline that could be perfectly serviceable data collection devices that maybe just sort of sitting around, but we could make sure can be put into service for this if an individual wants. And but we need a way to get that data either into GNU radio, which will store things in digital RF format the way I've done, or preferably it would be nice to have it into KA9Q radio. So an interface between an open HPSDR radio and KA9Q radio, some kind of interface along those lines would be ideal. I do not have the programming chops to accomplish this. Maybe John Melton does, but that would probably boost the overall volume of collection sites considerably. That and making a stable, I know it's already kind of built into KA9Q, but the interface with the already existing and probably pretty widely deployed SDR play radios, RSPDX, RSP Duo, are also radios that can be disciplined and consequently used for data collection, as long as they can be integrated pretty seamlessly and easily with KA9Q. And if KA9Q, if Franco's work to dump it into digital RF is as promising as it sounds, that's those are some pretty good accomplishments, I think. So anyway, I'm going to sign off. My wife's chomping at the bit to talk to me, and I'll talk with Dave and Dave tomorrow, though, I hope. Ciao, everybody.
Good night.
I don't have a lot left to contribute either.
Your noise just came back, Dave.
Hmm?
Your noise just came back.
Oh, well, I think maybe I should just go away. Kind of, I'm kind of fading this evening. So I'll say see you later to everybody and maybe next week. Y'all take care.
Bye, Dave. I'm gone too. See you later, guys.